we're going to learn about area of a circle. Again, this is one of the most incorrectly calculated things in this whole, geometry measurement type stuff. So to find the area of a circle, multiply pi. So typically they'll tell you whether to use 3.14 or to use 22/7, or if it's decimals, you use 3.14, if it's fractions, you use 22/7, by the square of the circle's radius. And the reason is because it would take just over 3 of these radius squares to completely cover the circle without having extra. So it would take 3.14159, blah, 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 amount of them. Ooh. So the formula on your formula sheet that you can use at any time to make sure you're using the right thing is going to say pi r squared. But to hopefully not mess up and accidentally double the radius, a lot of people will say pi r squared, okay, so pi times the radius times 2. No. So think of it as pi times r times the second r. That's the same as doing pi r squared. But this way, if you think of it this way, you also get a little more flexibility because of your commutative and associative properties.
Why do you need to multiply the radius by itself?
The radius by itself gets you the area of this radius square. Remember? Because length times width here. And therefore you're going to need pi amount of those. So pi times this radius squared. All right, back over to here. If given the diameter, this is where I mess up all the time. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do pi r squared. Okay, I'm going to do pi r squared. They give me the diameter, and I accidentally plug that in. So if given the diameter, don't forget to split the diameter in half. And then square the radius and multiply by pi. But again, in whatever order that you choose. So you could think of the formula as area equals pi times diameter over 2 times diameter over 2. But you never will see it written that way. So if you're given the diameter, remember you get that extra step. Don't forget it. Pi times diameter over 2 times diameter over 2 is going to give you your area. So for example, we're just going to do one example here so that we can make sure we're clear on what's the area formula versus the circumference formula, and then you get a bunch of practice problems on the other side. So find the area and circumference of the following circle using 3.14 for pi. So, again, I mess up my formulas, I don't have a good memory, so I would take out my formula sheet and go, all right, I've got a geometry problem, where's the formula I'm going to use? So for this one, area is pi r squared. That's what it says on my formula sheet. For the circumference, I'm going to look at the formula sheet. Let's see. Okay, I can use 2 times pi times r, or I could use pi times d. I'm pretty much just going to pick one or the other. But in order to use these formulas, I need to know what the diameter and the radius of the circle that they gave me. So who can tell me what the diameter of the circle is? Yes, sir.
6 centimeters.
6 centimeters. And who can tell me what the radius of the circle they gave me is? What's the radius?
6 centimeters.
3 centimeters. So don't forget to use the right numbers inside your formula. So for this one, the area is going to be 3.14 times 3 times 3. Sometimes I like to just spell it out to make sure that the right information going in the right order and all that stuff. A lot of times I do just square the radius. If I happen to know what 2 times pi is, especially since a friend of mine got married on 2 pi day, I might use the 6.28 and then times 2, but you get a little bit of flexibility. But most often I go ahead and do the radius squared as my first step. And then I don't know my 3.14 multiplication chart. I mean, some of you might, but I have to do it out the long way. So I go ahead and do my 3.14 times 9. and I don't forget my swoop decimal over there. And the area of that circle would be 28.26 centimeters squared. How many squares would fit in there? But not how many radius squares, but how many of the units that we're dealing with, in this case centimeters. And then to use my other formulas, 2 times the 3.14 they told me to use, times the radius, which is 3. And again, community property, associated property, all that stuff gives us the flexibility, doing it in whatever order you choose. So I could multiply these two first and get 6.28, and then times 3. But someone else might pick the 2 and the 3 to multiply first and do 6 times 3.14. It doesn't really matter as long as you're careful and don't forget the last of the numbers. So whether you do this one or that one, we'll do it over here. 10, 7, 8, 18, swoop. You should get, not what I wrote, you should get 18.84, and this is centimeters. Because remember, you could take a string and go around the circle and be how long that string would be. Versus pi times the diameter, they already gave me the diameter right from the beginning. So 3.14 times the 6, which is actually the second way I wrote that we could do the order. Uh-oh. So 3.14 times 6, hopefully we'll get the same answer if I'm careful. Yeah. 18.84 centimeters. So just be careful which formula you're using. Be careful whether you're using the radius versus the diameter.